Welcome back, everyone, to the Speaking Nerd podcast, where we talk about all things nerdy. And today we're kind of following up on one of our commentaries. So,
Ooh,
if you guys have not been in the loop, we did a commentary very recently talking about, or we watched, me and AJ watched the first episode of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the new show that is just released on, well, I guess not just recently released on Disney Plus. And
yeah, it's
yeah,
pretty recent.
it's pretty recent, yeah. So he hadn't seen it. I watched the whole season as it was coming out. I'm like, maybe he might enjoy this. And yeah, we watched the first episode together, and he got off the call and watched pretty much the rest of it within the span of a day.
Yes, I did.
So I told him like we're gonna talk about it on the podcast. We're gonna do a follow up, and also bring mention to the fact that you enjoyed the show.
Very
So
much so. I mean,
very
if
much.
if you're looking at my channel, uh, I just released a video about it last Friday, and I'm already working on another video about it.
Yeah, at the time of this recording, the first part of it is already on YouTube, and the second part may or may not be up by the time this video comes out, but if
Fingers
so,
crossed.
fingers crossed. But yeah, if so, go watch his videos on it or video, and you get some more insight into AJ's feelings on the show. But we're just going to talk about the whole thing here. We're going to do a full spoiler,
Mhm.
conversation like we usually do with these things. So
If you haven't seen it, get out.
get out,
Leave.
Swifty. I know you're watching. No, he's probably not watching this. But anyway, um, let's dive into just we let's just dive into spoiler. Like, just I think the show is I think the show is great.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I um I talked about this in my first video. I think you can see the reasons why this show is great in like the DNA of like everyone behind the show, like like Jeff Trammell, the showrunner. He worked on the Owl House before this. He worked on Crave the Creek. Some like classic uh, cable cartoons of the past, 10 years or so, as well as having like actual comic book artists on the show.
Mhm.
Um, and like you can see it all in just how good this show looks, and the fact that it actually feels like TV.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy thought
I
that,
know it's hard to forget with these shows coming out. It's just like because like especially with the Marvel shows, it feels like it doesn't feel like I'm speaking more so for the MCU show specifically, but
yeah, yeah,
it rarely feels like there's a cliffhanger ending to an episode. And then, because to me, what seen or what I remember seeing of the shows is that it just kind of cuts awkwardly. Like it's basically a
yeah,
6 hour movie, and they just split it
yeah.
into
They just
episodes.
stretch out a movie across 8 episodes and call it a show.
Right.
And you know, it's really refreshing to have a show that actually like gets it.
Hmm.
Um, that doesn't feel like they're um forcing too much into one episode. Like this show breathes, and the show takes time, you know, to get to know these characters. Um, and it's fun, and it's nothing feels like it needs to be, big and bombastic, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It really like the name Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. encapsulates the show perfectly because
Mhm.
it's a small scale event in terms of what's going on in the greater Marvel universe, but it feels so massive in its small scale.
Yeah.
Over the course of the show, we get hints of this universe that is not the main MCU timeline. It's kind of a divergent MCU timeline, but they have their own
Yeah.
shit going on, the whole Civil War happening in the background, and the divide between Captain America and Iron Man. All that stuff is going on, and then there's such a big thing in place with the whole gang war that is building
Yeah.
up over the course of the series.
Plus, you have like little seeds of like you know superhero politics with like Norman Osborn talking to some very specific figures in the Marvel universe about the need for kind of government sanctioned heroes kind of thing.
Yeah, this is a very street level like event that's happening, and I'm glad that
Yeah.
we get small little things, especially towards the end with the whole symbiote kind of thing
Mhm.
coming up and how it ties back into the first episode, which I really enjoyed. And I
Yeah,
was I was a little worried how that was going to go, but
I thought that was really cool.
yeah,
Um Especially since it kind of ties this season into a nice little bow.
yes,
Also, like it feels very minimalist um compared to a lot of the other Marvel shows, that it doesn't feel like it has to slap as many, you know, universe ending threats.
right. Yeah, there's a chance for street level heroes to do street level things. And I'm glad that they had a street level kind of present. Like Spider-Man's he's mostly street level, but he can be an Avengers level badass when he needs to. But I'm glad that
Mhm.
they didn't allude to the fact that oh, we're gonna see Spider-Man, punching the shit out of Thanos, or any stuff with Kang, or whatever things that could happen in that universe. They just kind of kept Spider-Man where he was in
Yeah,
his
they're
neighborhood, and it was great.
yeah, they're very confident in Peter as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He doesn't need to be an Avenger. He doesn't need to he doesn't need to be in London. He doesn't need to be meeting other Spider-Men in the Spider-Verse or whatever.
Right.
He, he is a great hero on the person to person level, which I think this show highlights very well.
It was honestly really refreshing
Yeah.
getting a story like this because the last like almost decade has been nothing but Spidey as an Avenger, or the Spider Verse is in constant danger, and we haven't really seen Peter Parker just be Spider Man and look out for the neighborhood, and look
Mhm.
out for his neighbors, and look out for the little guy, as they tried to imply in the movies, which they didn't do. So
Yeah.
um, yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
I'm glad that we didn't really get to we might see something like that later. It's with certain, he might team up with the Avengers, but I'd rather him just kind of be like in his own space, and if he
yeah.
needs to help, then he will help. But, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I think what I really liked, and we already gave the spoiler warning, so if you're still here, I mean, it's your fault. Uh, but I really like the stuff they did with Osborn as like a bad mentor. Um,
Yeah, I was
y-
gonna get into that
yeah,
next,
like
but
just a little thing before we actually get into it.
right.
Um, I and I'm planning on talking about this in my next video, but I really like the duality of Peter and Lonnie is kind of like almost like dual protagonists for this season at least.
Yeah.
Um, Lonnie, has this responsibility to his family, to the school, like most importantly to his brother. You know, he gets him out of that danger. Um, and then Peter, you know, has an equal responsibility to the Spider-Man role, but you have Norman who is like puts forth this idea of, you know, great power, great respect, which like when you hear it, you're like, that doesn't sound so right.
Yeah.
but um, but the show doesn't tell you how to think. It just
Yes. It just
kind of
does.
it just people just do things. Um, and it's kind of presenting it to you, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't really tell you how to think about it. It's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Hmm. Uh, I was gonna say earlier, while you were like the whole setup of Norman Osborn kind of being like the mentor figure and how that's like slowly falls apart. I thought it was so great. Like continuing on
Yeah.
because it's a weird thing at the start because like you as a Spider-Man fan, it's just like he has like like he's trying to do this good thing with Peter, but you know that something's going on in the background. And even there was
Mhm.
a part of me where I was like, maybe I'm doubting it. Maybe he actually might be. No, he's an asshole. Okay, good.
Yeah,
I'm glad we kept
it's
that.
it's like, you know, you want it to work so badly because he is kind of endearing at certain points.
Yes.
Um, but then you reminded repeatedly that this is Norman Osborn. Um, and he's never going to be Uncle Ben. Uh, which it just struck me when uh when Peter was looking at that like photo
Hmm.
uh, in the apartment. And he's reminded of something May said. You know, like go. You need someone to talk to.
Hmm.
And he goes to Osborn, and uh, and that's when he realizes he's not right.
And I like too that as soon as they start working together, like Peter can kind of see a little bit of the cracks, but he's trying to give Osborn like the benefit of the doubt. And then
Yeah,
Daredevil swoops in for his episode, and it's just like, yeah, something's going on, and he's lying to you, and he's doing all these things, and Peter's just like, no, he's not. you
I,
know,
I do really like that it takes multiple episodes for that to pan out.
yeah,
Um, like it kind of Daredevil seeds that little bit of doubt, and then it takes multiple episodes for that to kind of like reveal itself to Peter,
yeah.
which is like that's really good storytelling.
I wonder if in the next season we'll probably see Norman come back, and maybe he'll be Green Goblin, or
I,
something might happen that'll lead him in that direction to becoming Green Goblin.
I think it would I think next season will probably be moving in that direction. Um, but I wouldn't count on it early.
Yeah,
But there are definitely like beginnings of that. I mean, like
right. The
the
glider.
glider. It exists.
You
And
go back to formula, not this time.
not this time.
Yeah, I loved this portrayal of Norman Osborn.
I
Like,
think he's great. Um, the first time Norman is a black man, the guy who has waves.
they finally made the waves work.
The fulfillment of the prophecies.
It always weirded me out in, like, the '90s show, like, him and his son have these really weird, like, waves in their hair, or that's just, I mean, that's been a thing since, Norman and Harry were first introduced, but, you know,
True.
I can actually look at this Norman and be like, "Yeah, I can see him with, like, with
Yeah,
waves in."
it just makes sense. It just makes
Right.
sense. Also, like Coleman Domingo, that guy is awesome.
He is amazing as Norman Osborn.
He has a stellar voice for it. Um, Parts of me wishes this was the MCU Osborn, but that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, you never know, but also they could all well, I was gonna say Oscorp doesn't really exist in the main MCU timeline, so
I just I don't think at this point they should do Green Goblin. Um,
no.
because they made Willem Dafoe's Goblin so important to Tom Holland's story. Um, that trying to do it again uh just wouldn't work.
You know what I'm worried about? And this is coming from a villain that is actually from the MCU.
Yeah.
If they do Scorpion for the next Spider-Man movie, I don't know if they're gonna be able to top this one.
Oh, I agree. They are screwed in that respect.
Yeah,
Um,
I loved
because
Scorpion in this.
like the Scorpion fight and the like the hallucinations following it's like so good. Like absolutely stellar television.
Right.
And at first when when they were giving superpowers to a gang member, I was like slightly worried, and then it was like, oh man, this guy is menacing. This guy is menacing, like genuinely. He's got it. I don't know what it is, but he's got it.
Yeah, I would like part of me was worried about Scorpion in this show because when we first see him, like he's not decked out in armor and like he's the head of a street gang. And
Yeah,
it's just like, okay, we're doing the whole MCU character and maybe more so from like the Ultimate Comics when Miles was a thing they had another version of the Scorpion who was like from the cartel or something. It's like, okay, we're pulling more from that. It's like, okay. And then later he gets the armor and everything, and it's just like, okay, it's these things that like I don't know. This show caught me off guard because all the things I was kind of worried about, like you watch more of it and it actually becomes really good. Like it's great stuff. And Scorpion was one of them. And seeing that kind of transformation from being, this gang leader to the Scorpion that, we're all familiar with from, the comics and whatnot. He's still his own kind of unique character, but they use
yeah,
some elements of classic Scorpion, which I loved a whole lot. I loved that the first time we see him, he doesn't have the mask yet. And then when,
yes.
when we get to the final battle, he has the classic Scorpion mask. It's like, this is great. And a nice spin on
Plus,
what
like
they were doing.
the episode following, Peter getting absolutely destroyed. Um, doing all of the like hallucinations. It reminded me of re- reminded me of Marvel's Spider-Man, like Insomniac.
Right.
Um, and it was so perfect. It was so perfect. And I love having those consequences. I think that's one thing this show understands really well. Uh, that when things happen, they have aftershocks. And I think that's very important for telling a Spider-Man story.
Mhm. Yeah, which is something the MCU version didn't really have, like,
Not
until
really.
Until No Way Home, like, there was a little bit of
Yeah.
consequence
Well,
for,
yeah. It,
Mysterio and whatnot, and so
yeah, and the ending of No Way Home is really good consequences if it's maintained. So the next movie is really dependent on that.
Please don't do another multiverse story. I am begging you
Please,
not to do another
I'm
multiverse
begging
story.
you. I'm begging you. Please, just make a good movie.
Yeah.
Just go with the premise that he has no one. That, he's going to school. He's blah, blah, blah.
If you're gonna do a movie with him in the multiverse again, make it its own movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't make it Spider-Man 4.
Well,
Like,
like if you want to put him in the multiverse, I mean, drag him over to Beyond the Spider-Verse, whatever.
yeah. Um, Speaking of villains, he didn't get as much presence, but I loved Otto in this show.
Oh, he was great. I mean, his role as like, you know, building like power suits for like supervillains is really cool. Like I think that's a really interesting direction to go with him.
Yeah.
Plus the actor is perfect. Um like the theme they have for Otto is also really cool. Um I mean the design, no notes. No notes. It's peak. Peak.
It was so weird to me though hearing that voice come out of that body because
Yeah.
when I saw that look, immediately my mind went back to the 90s cartoon and having Alfred voice him and like having the German accent and everything. And
Yeah, the
it's like
German accent.
it's just the complete wrong voice for that body figure, but it works so well in the show. And I
It
love that,
does.
like when you break Otto down in this show, it's just like they gave him the PS4 origin where it's just like him and Norman worked together and then there was a falling out. But instead of this Otto being like, I'm gonna start my own company, we'll do science. And so he's just like, I'm just gonna make shit for for villains and make
Yeah,
all these power suits and
yeah, he
whatnot.
was just like, I'm gonna become a criminal.
Yeah, he's basically the proto Tinkerer. Um,
Yeah, he has there are no two ways about it. You know, he wants his money.
he wants that cash check, boy.
Yes. You know, he was like he's all about that getting your money up, not your funny up.
Part of me was wanting Spider-Man to be the one to take him down, but it was funny how it's just like because Norman goes to General Ross and is like, okay, I have this threat here. You guys, take care of it basically. And then just Iron Man shows up and which you know, the cameos in this show are great from like
They're
from
really
the other heroes.
they're really well placed. Like they don't overshadow Spider-Man's story at all.
No.
Um, which I really respect. Um, and it was really funny to have Iron Man take him down because he bro is just out to like he just hates every other major scientist.
Mhm.
you know, doesn't like Tony Stark, he doesn't like Osborn. Uh I imagine that he doesn't like Reed Richards.
Probably not. No.
He's got beef with all of them,
Yeah.
and it's hilarious.
I'm far better than all of them. Yeah, we got you there. We got you
I,
there, pal.
I do really like when they let him go beast mode in that one moment.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I'm very curious to see what they do with him going forward.
I can't wait for him to get his arms because that will would be a terrifying concept on it. Like because we already saw with Scorpion, right? When he just straight up stabbed that person through the chest.
Yes, yes.
um,
I
like
also I really like that they're you know they can go all out with like blood and stuff.
Yeah, this show, like, this isn't like, it's like it's not like a Saturday morning cartoon. It's kind of more reminiscent of like, like BTAS, like prime time sort of deal, where it's
Hmm.
just like it's it's light enough and it can be serious enough when it needs to be.
Yeah, and they swear every once in a while.
Every once in a while. And they're like in episode 1 when we were watching, like, seeing Lonnie walk home, take the train and everything, and the cop just following right behind him.
Also, not
Like,
to mention the lady that passes him on the subway
right.
with a child and was like, "Oh no, get away from him!" Like it's so real.
Yeah.
Um, like the show's dedicated to showing like uh, Peter Parker lives in a real neighborhood. Lonnie lives in a real neighborhood. What are the good things? What are the bad things? Kind of thing.
It was great. Like, just all around great stuff. I'm happy that it wasn't like, it's like, "Hey kids, I'm Spider-Man and we're going to face off this villain for an episode and then we're going to do something completely different for the next." No, this is a serialized like story from the first minute to when it ends. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Plus,
there's a whole story going on. It's not like a, villain to villain week type deal. Like,
it's a it's a character work show, and it really invests you in its characters. Even someone like Pearl, who could like kind of fade into the wayside, um as like a girlfriend of a character or the person that Peter pines for, but they invest you in her character as well as anyone else's.
I was really worried what they were gonna do with Pearl because they set it
Yeah.
up as just like, it was to me. I thought it was like, oh, it's just gonna be Homecoming again, where it's just like he's
Yeah, I
climbing
thought.
over Liz the whole movie. They get together and then it's just like they break up because reasons, him being a fucking superhero. But they didn't do that. They didn't get together at all.
Yeah,
And
I was worried she was just gonna be Liz again. Um, but she's really good.
she is, yeah.
Like that one moment, where she kind of like breaks down next to Peter. Um,
Mhm.
like that, I think that was one of the best acted moments in the show. And I'm really curious to see what they do with her character.
Yeah. Yeah, it was such a strong start. Um, how do you feel about Harry Osborn? I guess we're talking characters now, but how do you feel
He's
about Harry Osborn?
he's really interesting. I do really like the influencer direction with him, and also hammering home the idea of like you're rich and powerful. Uh, you're like the son of one of the biggest billionaires, so
Right.
you don't have a lot of friends. You don't know how to interact with people. And kind of like the small scale impact of that um is really interesting. And he's probably the most unique version of the character that we've gotten. Um, in that he's not like uh he's not like the most important character at all times or whatever.
Yeah, like,
But
he's not trying to be like, he's like, I'm actually happy with how they go with his relationship with Peter, where he's just
yes,
like, he's not jealous of the fact that, him spending so much time with his dad and whatnot. He's just happy to, you know, to meet people, or, he's happy to be with Peter when he needs to be.
yeah. He just wants friends, guys. He just wants friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt bad for him, you know.
You know who I wish we could have seen more of though is Aunt May.
I agree. I agree. Well, it's funny when I was watching the show, I was I was worried we weren't getting enough Aunt May, and then I got and then I got to the scene where she was like packing some stuff up to like get rid of.
Hmm.
Um and it was such a good scene. Uh I want 5 times more of that.
Yeah.
But what we get is really great. Just give me more.
Yeah. Yeah, like the show has the chance to one up MCU Aunt May and just do something like much better.
Yeah, and I think they already have. But I want a greater frequency of it, you know.
Yeah, I don't know, like I mean I like this Aunt May a lot. I also like Marissa Tomei as Aunt May, but
Yeah.
it's just like I said, I wish I could have seen more of her, and that's we're
Mhm.
probably gonna get more of her in season two. Um, but yeah, what we got was really good. And also, can
Yeah.
I just mention that I'm so happy that this show uh, acknowledges and we actually see Uncle Ben in some
Yes.
sort of way. There's
Yes.
actually some presence of Uncle Ben as opposed
Each-
to like a suitcase.
like even something as subtle as like the using the camera that he owned
Hmm.
was a really cool way to kind of bring him into the context of the show. And and like Uncle Ben is very present in the idea of Peter looking for a new mentor in a post Uncle Ben life, which I think is really cool and a really good way to bring him up without it feeling random.
Forced. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did throw me like I was when they first like the first episode when they're when she rides him to school and we realize that like Peter hasn't yet gotten his powers, but Uncle Ben's still dead or just
Yeah.
recently passed. I was worried because it's just like, oh, I thought we were gonna retread the MCU where it's just like all those values and stuff. Like it's just the whole great power, great responsibility thing. Like they weren't like they were trying to have it be another character, which they do. And I think the show did a much better job in actually having, you know, Peter's values and what Uncle Ben taught him kind of be the spark of him wanting to become a superhero.
Yes. I also, I really love the fact that Uncle Ben dies before he's Spider-Man. And I really like it for one reason. Um, because he isn't Spider-Man because he feels guilty. There's still guilt, but that's part of being Peter Parker.
Mhm.
But he is Spider-Man because he's a good person. Like he is Spider-Man because he wants to help people. And that's why I'm glad that they don't like the events don't coincide like they tend to do in a lot of recent like Spider-Man media.
Yeah, I'm like I don't like the change at first. I was just like, I don't know, like killing Uncle Ben off before, and listening to what the creator said, where it's just like Peter's using those values to be a hero. What Uncle Ben
Exactly.
taught him before he passed. I'm like, okay, yeah, that actually works, and you see that in the show. So I mean, it's different. It's a different origin, but it works for the show, and it's a pretty good it's a pretty good way of doing it, I'd say. I
Yeah,
don't want it to
because
be the main de facto one, but it was good for the show.
I agree. I agree. I think it's just a really interesting place to go. Especially since those values are, very centric to the stories of Peter and Lonnie
Yeah.
as like dual protagonists, um of like you know, they have very different neighborhoods, and they both gain, you know, great power throughout the season, and the question of like, you know, what do you do with that
Hmm.
is explored really interestingly, and I'm really really curious where they're gonna go with Lonnie next season, because where they left it off at the end um is it's not necessarily completely positive, but it's not very negative either,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Like it's not in a place where he's going to turn full bad guy right away. Like
Yeah.
there's a chance for him to actually do some good, and maybe it might be a complete switch up where it's just like, even though he does have that power, teaming up with Spider-Man and seeing Spider-Man in action, he realizes like, man, I can actually use these powers and stuff for the
Mhm.
greater good. So, but Lonnie was probably one of my favorite characters in the show.
He's so
Um,
good.
he's so great.
And
I loved his whole story.
he's acted, you know, so well that, you know, especially if you're a comics fan, you know, you like that, you know, Tombstone. Um, he's so good that you don't want it to happen.
Yeah, it's how I felt when I played Spider-Man PS4 for the first time, and seeing that transition from
Mhm.
Otto being a genuine, like, nice, sweet guy, and then he becomes this absolute just villain by the end. It's just like, no, it's just like, what's gonna happen, but no, don't. So, I mean, I was kind of feeling that same trajectory for Lonnie. I'm really curious also what they're gonna do with him for season 2 and beyond.
I'm so
Maybe it
worried
might
they're
maybe it
gonna
might
hurt
be
my
a
boy.
I
They're gonna hurt my boy.
know. Well, he has improved his skin. Shut up. Um, yeah, I I like Lonnie. I said I just love the whole like it is just as much as his show as it is Spider-Man's, I think.
Yeah, it's it's peak. He's peak.
This show could have been called Your Friendly Neighborhood Lonnie Lane. I would have enjoyed
I
it just as
I
much.
yeah, I'd be here for it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, just I'm really excited for season 2. But now we get to talk about the best girl,
Yes. Yes.
Nico.
The GOAT.
Also really excited for what's coming up for season 2 for her.
Dude, there is so much you can do with her. And I I'm so curious what their plans are for her. Um, but uh I really love what they've done with their character so far. Um, especially with the classic storyline of uh oh, Peter Parker lied to me.
Oh god. Oh god. I was so worried about that because a lot of people made a point of that when they were bringing up, like, Invincible and, My Adventures, where it's just like, oh, it's just like the whole "you lied to me" thing. "No, I hate you." Like, I was worried that they were just gonna be like, "Yeah, we're just gonna do a complete switch up and have, everybody hate on Nico," which I didn't want, but I think they resolved it in a nice way, and there's a good,
Yeah.
the last conversation between the two of them in that alleyway was great, and I love that,
Yes.
like, we get to see that, like, you know, he might be late for class as Spider-Man or whatever, and she's, like, being like, "Yeah, he's trying to buy her more time." Like, it wasn't it is it wasn't nowhere near as bad. They actually I'm stumbling my words. They did it in a way I thought it was actually good. as opposed to Invincible, where it was just like, yeah, it's just like I knew you were a superhero the whole time, but I didn't say anything because you're still a dick, and it's just that was bad. That was just bad writing. But
Such an such an odd choice.
I knew you were
Um,
a superhero, but I'm still mad that you left us
I
to save everybody. Like,
I
what?
I I don't have a problem with her being mad at Mark uh for lying. I wouldn't have any problem with that, but inserting the I knew but I'm still mad at you.
Right,
It's kind of nonsensical
right.
because why wouldn't you bring it up ages ago? I don't know.
Yeah, it's
But yeah, they do it brilliantly. There's a natural progression to it. Like she doesn't forgive him immediately, but they also don't drag it out at all.
no.
It feels like just the right amount of time for that.
And her reasoning too, I thought was really good. Where she's not mad at him because he's Spider Man. She's mad that she didn't like they're best friends, and they
Yeah,
have been over the whole show. And he didn't tell her.
and
But
and Har- and the fact that Harry knew before she did.
right,
Um, and also like that is what it should be about every time. Um, it's the most human problem. You lied to me. We're best friends and you lied to me.
hmm
So, it's a breaking of trust, it's a breaking of friendship. Um, which, that's what Spider-Man stories are about.
right.
The like interrelationship drama kind of thing. And it was very good.
It was very good.
Nico Peak?
I love Nico so much.
Yeah, like especially the driving stuff with Harry, I thought was really fun.
Her whole dynamic with Harry, that whole
Yes, yes,
relationship was great. Where it's just like,
yes.
oh, it's just this punk kid, or social media influencer, whatever. And he's trying his best to be like, hey, he's just kind of chill. I love that. Like, it's just like, yeah, they connect over the terror ratings, and he's like, or she finds out he has no idea what she's talking about at all.
Yeah, yeah, because he's just an influencer guy who gets into like aesthetics and stuff, but doesn't actually know anything about it.
Right. That was great, and that whole driving scene is just
Yes.
it's great stuff too.
He was like terrified when she was going Tokyo Drift on him.
Absolutely. Um, Peter in the show, I'm, it's. I think they did a much better job compared to the MCU with Peter's
Yeah.
character.
Well, the thing is, like, you know, while the show does retain some of Peter's, more like kind of soft spokenness, and kiddishness or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, they take that in interesting direction. Especially with like having Norman as like a Tony Stark stand-in
hmm
is really interesting, and they take it in a natural direction. In that if you choose a billionaire as a mentor, they're probably not going to be teaching you any worthwhile lessons.
yeah.
I mean, crazy thought. I know.
Tony.
That like crazy idea to say billionaires have no moral fortitude. I could never believe that. But also like I think you can get all of Peter's character uh in the first episode, um when he brings that robber back to um What was
Yeah,
it, like, a pizza place?
it was a pizza place. Yeah,
Brings Robert back to the pizza place and basically gives the choice up to the owner. Like, she was just down on her luck. Uh, like, I don't think there's any reason to call the authorities.
all right.
Like, that's Peter Parker. Empathy.
Yeah, it's not just it's just like you beat up the bad guys and then move on to the next thing or whatever. Like it's actual you know listening to reason and also being like, yeah,
Caring
you
about
might
your
have you might have
neighbors.
stole some money and being like, well, it's just like she might have been just had a hard break and
Yeah,
she
just
was
like,
trying to look for the easy way out. So
yeah, she was looking. You have Peter looking out for the little guy.
yeah,
Crazy how that happens.
I'm just glad that Peter and even though he's in this relationship with Norman Osborn, like he's pushing to be his own character.
Hmm.
Like it's not like the MCU version where it's just like, he's basically in the first like few like he's basically Iron Man's sidekick.
Yeah.
In a sense. Like he's pushing for his ideas. Like when they're flying around this like when he wears when he's trying on the different suits, it's just like dude's like he's like, I'm Spider-Man. I'm not a Beetle guy or I'm not all this. And he's just like, it's
And
just like I
and
want
the
to
fact
be
that
me.
and the fact that Norman doesn't listen
Yeah.
is like, it's hinting that, maybe this isn't good.
Yeah.
But it doesn't outright say it. And it isn't, you know, the part, like, he doesn't realize that completely until like episodes down the line because he's a kid, um, and he's still figuring things out.
Hmm. And I love that it's Harry who's the one basically being like, yes, be your own person, be your own
Yeah,
hero.
yeah,
And that's when he gets the classic suit, which
which is peak.
is great. I wish the chest logo was different though. It's the same as his one on the back, but yeah, that's a minor nitpick. Whatever. Um,
When the only bad things you can say about the show are minuscule.
yeah, most of the most things, it's just kind of like most of my grievances are just little minor things that don't really impact it much. Um,
Mhm.
like I could say, animation wasn't as top notch or whatever. It still looked great. There were a few points where it's kind of like a
Plus,
little too some cheap in parts, but
it gets better
it
as you
does.
go through the season. Um, Especially in movement. Like, I think the best animation of the show is like when he's swinging, when he in fights too.
Yeah, the
Like
action beats and him just traversing are the best
the
uh
Scorpion fight is
anime.
goaded.
Oh my god, both of them just great.
Yes. Um,
Um,
yeah, when Lonnie and Spider-Man team up, it's it's peak. It's awesome. Um, yeah. Uh, Also, like, the second season will be even better animation wise. I already know. Because because they've definitely learned a lot from this season.
right, absolutely. Yeah, so many things to look forward to. Um,
Yes.
um, I guess we'll get into the big twist or the final episode was a whole riot. Like I just loved it the
Yes.
whole time. Like
Yes.
how it ties into the first episode and it's just we get hints of like the symbiote and maybe some
The
stuff later on with
the perfect bookend.
yeah.
Like, just the perfect bookend.
Yeah, like this show this season was good where it's good enough on its own. Like if they didn't renew it, it's
Mhm.
great on its own, but it
Yeah.
leaves the door open for more exciting things and
Yeah, it's
like
like
that's what you should do with a TV show, I think.
yeah, it's like, if this is all that would exist, I'm happy. But it there's so much opportunity for so much more good things from the show. Like you can tell there's a lot of intention here.
Right. There's a lot of heart in this show.
Yes, so much heart. And it's, especially with like Lonnie, this show is this show, while it is inspired by so many parts of Spider-Man history, is telling its own new story, and it's a really good story.
It is.
And if you haven't watched it yet, what are you doing
Do it now. Go
now?
watch it now.
Now,
Um, yeah, I'm excited, like ecstatic for season 2. Like I can't
yes,
wait to follow up on the whole Richard Parker thing
yes,
that they set up at the very end.
especially with who's playing him.
Josh Keaton.
Eek.
I saw a video on TikTok right after that scene had come out, and somebody was like, "Is that Uncle Ben?" She's like, "No, it's not. It's literally it's not Uncle
Or
Ben, you idiot."
it literally couldn't be more clear, unless it like said, "Look, guys, Uncle Ben." Not Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben certainly wouldn't say, "How's my son?"
Yeah, that's not exactly how genealogies work.
No.
Bunch of geniuses in the Marvel fandom.
But yeah, there's so much setup. Like,
Yes.
I'm excited with what happens to Nico. I'm excited with what happens to Peter, to Lonnie.
Like it just, all of the threads come together so beautifully, and then it's like, oh wait, what's gonna happen to all of these things? So, um, yeah, is it just leaves so many interesting things on the table.
It's just a great time
Yeah,
overall.
and like it's a masterclass of like how to make a really good finale.
Right. I guess we'll get into final thoughts. This show
They
blew
cooked.
like it was great. It blew my like the expectations that I had. I probably went into this in the commentary, but like my expectations were like it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine at least. Like I'm probably gonna enjoy it, but and the first 2 episodes, or I think how many episodes came out? I think 3 or something. No, I'm wrong. Um, watching the first episode, I was kind of hesitant, and then I was like, "Oh, give more of it a shot." And it's just like it got better and better and better and better and
Yes,
better each
yes,
episode,
yes.
and like it just left me wanting more. Um, yeah, it's just like all these plot threads and what they're gonna do next is so exciting. They're
Yes.
doing Spider Gwen next season. And I don't know about that, but I
If
have faith
if
in the show in the
if
creative team.
anyone can do it well, it's them. My I my theory right now, uh, is, and I'm not trying to overshadow the fact that we're trying to do closing thoughts, but
Right.
my thought right now is the spider that bit Peter went onto someone's backpack. Uh, so that's clearly going somewhere.
Right.
Um, so it could just be, Gwen gets bit also. Or, there's also the threat of spider clones,
Spider
which
yeah.
which was established.
Yeah. I think part of it is just because I'm so sick of Spider Gwen. And I just when I
Yeah,
saw that news, I was like, really?
I
Of all the characters? Like where's Cindy Moon at? We need
yeah,
more Cindy Moon love
it's
in
true.
this thing.
It's true.
Um
Uh I think whatever they do, it's gonna be good
yeah.
based on what we've seen so far. Um, I don't love that they're doing Spider Gwen, but I
No.
trust.
I trust. Yeah. that's the through line here for season 2 is I trust. But yeah, the show is just this whole season is just it's great. I loved
In
it from beginning
in
to end.
in Jeff Tramiel, we trust.
I loved its story. I loved its characters. Visually, I think the show is
The art
just
design is
amazing.
great.
The art design is incredible. Yeah, I just there all the accolades I can give. Give here, and I'm so excited for what comes next for the show. Hope we get more seasons to come. Is my hope.
As many seasons as they have story to tell. Please,
20
please.
seasons later, we're
Give,
still doing Friendly Neighborhood.
hey, if it's as good as this first season, I'm here for it. But yeah, it's peak. If you haven't watched it, please do. Marvel, you better give me so many seasons of this. This is legitimately the only Marvel project in a very long time that has gotten me excited about Marvel. So
I mean, I'm not in charge, but yeah, I'll give you more seasons if you want.
give me more right now.
Inject it into my veins. Give it to me now.
I want to take this stuff like drugs up my veins and through my blood.
Spider ecstasy. Let's do it.
Yes.
But that's going to be it for this episode of the Speaking Nerd podcast. What did you guys think of your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man? Or did you enjoy it? Did you watch it? If you didn't watch it, I don't know why you're here still, but
Yeah. What
are
are
you
you
going to
doing
watch it?
What are you doing with your life? I think you should strongly reconsider your life choices.
Right. Absolutely.
And you should apologize to us personally.
Yes.
Profusely.
If you're looking for more Spidey content, be sure to watch the commentary. We had a great time on it, and also be sure again go check out AJ's video or videos about your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And besides that, is there anything else you're working on? You want to tell the people about?
I'm always working on a lot of stuff. I will say, looking towards the next couple months, May will be a decently big month. I'm doing some Star Wars videos in honor of May the 4th, as you do. And I'm doing a Doom video, which I'm very excited about. It's so we can prepare for the age of Dark Ages Doom, aka Peak. But yeah, I have a lot of different projects in the works. Just a lot of craziness. You just gotta pull it together.
Right. Absolutely.
How about you?
I am starting to make videos again. I'm not sure. This should be out this weekend, and by the time it does, I have a couple of first impressions, which are kind of late, but talking about Captain America, talking about Daredevil, and soon enough, I'm going to be talking about Invincible for first impressions, kind of getting all the thoughts out. And I also have some other videos that I'm working on. Like I'm going to do if it's not out already, I'm doing a rant about the whole Monolith situation with WB.
Deserved of a rant.
And
I hate them so much.
I might do a look at video. I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but look at something. But there's a lot of stuff. I've been gone for so long that there's a lot of stuff I want to get back into, like not only for the review channel but also for the LP channel. Start uploading on there again. Try to get those playthroughs finished and the streams. So, and also we've been going strong over on intensive treatment with the
yes,
penitentiary playthroughs. So a lot of shit.
Yeah, it's just about making it all make sense. It's a struggle, but we ball.
Right. But yeah, everybody, that is going to be it. Have a great night. Thank you all so much for watching. And of course, take care of yourselves. Goodbye.
Goodbye.